Well, happy Sunday, my loves. Today I am doing my word for the year in my brand new journal, and it feels so good. It feels so small and not chunky like, at the end of your journal. But I'm excited to share that with you today. So let's take a look down here. So here's our journal page that we're doing. Sweet, soft, all the things that I have been wanting to get done for my word for the year. And it took me a while to land on this, but I did, and I feel really good about it. There's a lot of things that I'll share at the end of the video. So let's go over the supplies. I am working in my brand new, this is Handmade Journal. Let's see, that's the cover. I had to flatten it out a little bit. So I do have a free tutorial in the workshop area. I'll leave a link for that down below in the YouTube description box. If you want to make your own journal, I've been making my own now for quite some time. There's plenty of really great journals out there though. So, you choose what's best for you. So I have some random bits of paper that I honestly had them in my stash, except for the feather. And I will have this feather sheet for you in the resource library for free. So you can grab that if you would like in the resource library. If you have to be a subscriber, so you can subscribe. I'll have links to that too on the blog post to become a subscriber if you would like. And then you can get into the library and get all the things. Let's see. So papers, in the background, I started with gesso, and then I used Artesa's just regular gray, a little bit of gesso, and then surprisingly some pink. This is pale pink, and I did a mixture of Algerian crimson hue, pale pink, and burnt sienna. And I positively love this. And this is one of the reasons why we play and experiment in our journals, because this color I will do again. I absolutely love it. Then I put my papers down with my fluid matte medium. I printed my words on tissue paper. The stencils I used were the numbers jumbled and the clock scroll. Those will be on sale for you this week. It's super simple, and yet the process in it was very, very meaningful for me, and I'll share that at the end. Charcoal pencil. Let's see. Charcoal pencil. I did use some oil pastels on the top here, and black soft pastel. I did use some acrylic ink. I used Liquitex transparent raw umber. You can obviously see the grungy goodness. And I did use some titanium white in the background to kind of push things back just a bit so that my paper would show up, because this is printed on tissue paper as well. And that's really it. Super simple and yet very, very meaningful to me. All right, my loves, that is your supplies. So let's get creating. loves. I hope you enjoyed this journal project. I love working in my journal, and I think you know that by the last few pages that I've done, how meaningful it is on my personal and artistic journey. So I hope that you're starting right along with me this year, and I've made enough pages in my journal to take us through the year, and we'll see where we go and what happens and what we need to journal about. But let's talk about today's page. So I went over all the supplies in the beginning of the video, and of course the stencils are going to be on sale, and then this feather sheet is going to be available to you in the resource library. So my word for the year is softness, and I really struggled with I struggled with even choosing a word, because the word I chose last year just flew right out the window with this entire year, or 2021. But this word, my word for the year, I can apply no matter what happens. And that was important to me. And I suppose I could have done that for last year's word, but it just didn't work. There were too many things. But I have made a promise to myself. So let's talk about this. So I put the papers down, and this page back here says promissory note, and it just happened to be in my papers. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a promissory note to myself. I am promising myself softness. And every little piece came together. This was in, all of these things were in my stash, and I was thinking about, when I was thinking about softness, and softness is a hard word for me because sometimes I have, especially for myself, not for my people, but for myself, softness sometimes to me feels like weakness. And I know that's wrong. I know that's terribly wrong. But if I allow myself some patience and kindness and accepting and mercy of myself, I can do this for everyone else, but of myself, I feel like I'm not moving forward. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. This is my work, and I knew what my work was going to be as soon as I did my last journal page and I was doing my journaling. I knew right away. So when I started thinking about the word softness, I of course looked it up because that's what I do. And I put the clocks in here because there was this time frame where I need to kind of stop time for myself. I need to stop, get off the clock for work, make time for my relationships, make time for friends. Time is a big thing for me. There's an element of time in everything that I do. And so that's why I've got the clocks in here. 7s are this perfect number, and it means peace for me. And so it's partly because on the 7th day God rested. That's kind of where that came from for me. And so that's kind of the perfect number of rest. And so I've got a lot of 7s in here because rest is a big component of this softness for me. And I put in here merciful, patient, kind, and accepting. And these things I am not real good at sometimes for myself. I'm really great at them for everyone else, but I'm not accepting right now. I'm super self-conscious about all kinds of things. Going gray, getting older, gaining weight, all these things. Patient. I'm not patient with myself. Oh gosh. Kind, I've talked over and over and over again how we do not talk to others like we talk to ourselves. And mercy is like a key word in this softness. And so all of those things kind of went into softness. And so I was going to choose gentleness, but softness was different. It sounded different. It was a different feeling for me. It was like a soft place to land. And I need a soft place to land. And so that's why I put the butterflies. I've kept thinking about them floating in the air. You know how you sometimes see a feather floating in the air? And it just looks effortless and peaceful. And so that's kind of where I went. And these all happened to be in my scrap pile. And it was like, okay, this is perfect. I got the signs. So that's how all of the imagery came together. So as I started thinking about softness, because I was really uncomfortable with it at first, and sometimes if we're choosing a word and we're uncomfortable with it, that just might be the sign that it's the word that we need to work on, that we need to work through, that we need to examine. So when I thought about softness, because for me, and I shared this a couple of weeks ago in my last journal page, that I'm a very rigid person when it comes to myself. I don't allow myself very many breaks. I work nonstop. And this is not a brag at all. These are things that are detrimental to my health, to my relationships, to my family, and I work on them constantly. And so when I was thinking about this rigidity in myself, I looked up rigid. And it wasn't good. I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that description at all. And it was mortifying to me. I'm like, I wonder if other people see me that way. And my husband said, no, I don't see you that way at all. You're hardest on yourself. I'm like, that's a true statement. And I think in some sense, we all are more tuned into our own flaws than anybody else is. And we're not tuned into other people's flaws. We want to help them. But for us, it's a different story, right? And so as I started looking at the opposite side of rigid, because rigid was callous, hardened, hard-hearted. I mean, I was in tears. I was just like, oh, that's how I see myself? Hard-lined, immovable, which inflexible. I can be those things. And I will tell you that half of the journey in growing and growth is recognizing things within us. And I'm not saying beat ourselves up or have guilt or shame or all of those things, although I'm cringing. Part of recognizing some of the things within us that we know we need to work on, we need to change, that's half the battle. As soon as you recognize them, you see them. It's like when you go to buy a new car and you finally decide on a model and you drive it away and suddenly you see this model car everywhere. It's because you've been looking at it, you've been focused on it. And so when we start looking at some of the things within us that maybe we need to change, we will recognize them more. So recognizing things is half the battle in change. And then, I could just go on about the horrible words about rigid. And then the opposite of rigid is charitable. And I'm like, oh, I want to be charitable. I want to be so charitable and kind and merciful, mild, patient, soft-hearted. And I want to be that for myself. I am that for other people, but I am not that for myself. Very often, not always. And there are seasons where it's easier to be the things that we want to be, and then there are seasons where it's harder. And honestly, the last year and a half, 2 years, have been a hard season. I've shared this before, that this is our family's season of hard, it has been hard. And when it's hard like that, it's hard to see the good in yourself sometimes, because it's hard to see the good outside. But my goal for me, and a lot of times I choose words for the year that will apply to the family, that will apply to business, that will, because my word last year was grounded, and I wanted to be grounded in business and with the family, and I had a whole broad vision. This is not like that this year. This is all about me. And I know that sounds selfish, but sometimes that's what we have to do to take care of ourselves. So we have to focus, we obviously have to do the things that we have to do and take care of our families and go to work and all those kinds of things. But there is a season where we have to focus on us and rest and get quiet and have quiet time and be accepting and be merciful and be patient and be kind to ourselves. And that is my goal this year. I want to rest more this year than I have since I started my business 9 years ago. I want to rest more. I just want there to be a softness about me. Not that I don't want to get things done, and I don't, I still want to do all of my things. I love my business. I love what I do, but I want there to be an underlying softness and kindness and mercy for myself. If I were to recognize a friend who was tired and exhausted, I would say, hey, come here. Let me make you dinner. Come over and I'll just, have a glass of wine and we'll sit and we'll talk and you can rest. Why don't you take some time? You would do that for a friend. And I need to do that for myself. For so many reasons, but for myself first and foremost. And maybe you need to prioritize some things for you this year too. I don't know. I know that sharing my journey and my vulnerability with all things, a lot of aspects in my life, help. When we're vulnerable, other people have permission to be vulnerable too. And so that's really the purpose of why I started doing what I do, and I continue to do that today. And so I am praying for softness this year. I'm praying for a heart of mercy for myself, of course for others, but for myself, and rest. The most restful year that I've had in a long, long time. So I am really going to work on that. All right, my friends, that is my word for the year, softness. And we'll see where it takes me. I'd love to hear what your word for the year is, or maybe you don't do a word for the year, but maybe you are recognizing some thing or things that you need to search out, reach for, focus on for yourself. I'd love to hear about it. Love to. And I'd love to encourage you on your journey. Always, creatively and personally. All right, my loves. I hope your Sunday... Oh, one other thing. I want to say thank you so much for all of your prayers. Since my last video on Sunday, we had a family emergency, and it was really, really tough, and still is. But there is hope, like my last Sunday inspiration, and it gets better every day. And I am incredibly grateful. I have had so many of you reach out saying that you're praying, sending light, sending love, all of that. It makes a huge, huge difference. And myself and our family are so grateful. Thank you so very much. And things are getting better. All right, my loves, have a wonderful Sunday. I hope it's restful and peaceful. And I hope that you always, always know that you are loved.